Hello children, let me welcome you to the virtual training center of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher. Children, we are in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, isn't it? Because of that, we are not able to go to school, but that doesn't mean that we are going to stop learning. We are going to meet here regularly through the virtual training center to learn many lessons in EVS. So come on, let's go to a lesson in EVS.
Is lesson number 5 from your EVS textbook, and it is understanding time. Okay, now when we talk about time, children, we always think about the watch, we think about the clock, etc. Isn't it? But then today we will see, along with these other things, what other terms and what other objects do we use in order to understand time. We will also see how time is divided into 3 parts. Okay, so today's lesson is going to be an interesting lesson. There are going to be lots of beautiful pictures for you to see and understand. So children, whenever we start a lesson, you should always pick up your textbook and keep it open. Alright, so now you can all pick up your textbook and open it and come to page number 30 in your EVS textbooks. So we will know what we are learning and you will be able to understand better also. So like I told you, in today's lesson, we are going to understand what time is. Okay, so what is time? Time is divided into 3 parts. I told you, time is divided into how many parts? Into 3 parts. Just like in our body, we have various parts. So to understand time also, we have divided it into various parts. So we have the past. Okay, past. Look at the pictures here. What is there along with the word past? There is a picture of a tiny baby, a small baby. So imagine that this is you. Alright. So your past is when you were a small baby. And then you have the present, that is now, present. See, you are around 8 years old. So this is how you look now. And then you have the future. Future means tomorrow. Okay, so past means yesterday, whatever happened before now. Present means now, okay, whatever is happening today. And future is what will happen tomorrow. So the time is divided into 3 parts: past, present and future. Alright children, so slowly and slowly we will understand what is the meaning of past, what is the meaning of present and what is the meaning of future. We will also see what words we use when we are talking about the past, when we are talking about the present and when we are talking about the future. Okay, so let's see now. See, this is the past. Past means yesterday. Okay, past means what? Yesterday, in simple words. And this is the present. Present means today. Okay, so whatever is happening now, today, is the present. And then what is the future? It is tomorrow. We don't know what will happen tomorrow, isn't it? So whatever will happen after today is the future. So once again, listen to me and try to repeat also after me. So which are the 3 parts of time? It is P-A-S-T, past, P-R-E-S-E-N-T, present, F-U-T-U-R-E, future. Okay? So time is divided into past, present and future. Isn't it interesting? And isn't it simple also? Come on, now let's see which words we use when we talk about the past, the present and the future. So when we are talking about the present, now, we use the words today. We use the word now. Okay? So see, what will you say? Today is Saturday. Today is Saturday. You can also say, if you're talking about today, you will say about present, you will say, today is my birthday. Okay, so today. So what is the meaning of today? Today means present tense. So when we are talking about present tense, we use the word today. Okay, let us look at some more examples of present tense. Will you go to school today? So you're talking about now, you're talking about today. Will you go to school today? Look at the next one. Mummy is baking a cake today. What is Mummy doing? It is his birthday, isn't it? So Mummy is baking a cake today. Alright? So once again, when we talk about the present, what do we use? We use today. Okay? Let's look at the next part of time now. It is future. Future means what will happen after today. That is tomorrow. So let's see what word we will use. Tomorrow is Sunday. So see, what is the word used for future? It is tomorrow. We can also say tomorrow is my birthday. Tomorrow for future. Look at the next one. Will you go to school tomorrow? Okay, so tomorrow for the future. Mummy will bake a cake tomorrow. So I have used the same sentences and I have only changed the tense. So what have I done? When I changed the tense, I used tomorrow instead of today. Okay, when it was present tense, I used today, and when it is future tense, I used tomorrow. Alright children, let's come to the third part of time now. It is past tense. What tense? Past. Past means that which is gone, finished, past. Alright, so let's look at the words that we use. Yesterday was Friday. Yesterday was Friday. Look at the next one. Yesterday was my birthday. Yesterday was my birthday. Had you gone to school yesterday? Okay. So remember, when we talked about present, we said today. When you talked about future, you said tomorrow. And when you talk about past, what will you say? Yesterday. Look at the next one. Mummy had baked a cake yesterday. Alright. So, when you talk about past tense, you use the word yesterday. Alright children, so this is how time is divided into 3 parts. Interesting na? Come on. Now let's look at some more interesting things about time. So what is this? This is a calendar. You must have seen it at home. You see it in your class, in the school. If you go to a bank or if you go to a shop, you tend to see such calendars there, isn't it? So what does the calendar do? We use a calendar to check the dates and the day. So whenever we want to check which date it is, which day is it, what do? We immediately check the calendar. Okay? Then we also use the calendar. We turn the page of the calendar to go to the next month. So when you are on 31st January, what do? You change the page to go into February. We turn the page on the calendar to go to the next month. Alright. Next is the numbers on the calendar indicate the dates. So what is shown on the calendar? The dates, and that is shown using the numbers. Okay. So once again, try and read what I have written. We use a calendar to check days and dates. We turn the page on a calendar to go to the next month, and the numbers on the calendar indicate the dates. Alright? So children, hope you understood what is the meaning of a calendar and why and how do we use a calendar. We use it in order to understand more about days, about dates, about month, etc. Now let's see how we measure time. Now children, time is very, very important in our life, isn't it? We do everything according to the clock or to the watch. In the mornings, your mummy looks at the clock and she wakes you up, isn't it? You look at the clock and you decide that it is time to go to school. You look at the clock and you decide that it is now time to go to sleep. So, measurement of time is very, very important in our life. So, let us see how we measure time today, how people measured time in the past also. Alright, so see, this is a water clock. Now in the ancient times, olden times, people did not have the mobile or they did not have the clock. So how did they measure time? They used a water clock like this. Okay, so a water clock was used to measure time. See, one more water clock. Can you see? This is one more water clock, another type of water clock. Then these people, they also used an hourglass. An hourglass is also called as a sand timer. Can you see? There is a kind of a glass which is connected. There are two glasses which are connected and it is fitted on a wooden frame. Okay? All the sand from the top glass drops gradually into the lower glass. And once it is done, then what you have to do is you had to turn it manually like this. Okay, people had to keep on turning it. Now these glasses, these kind of hourglasses, they were used even in our country. An hour means what? It used to take one full hour, 60 minutes for the sand from the top to come to the bottom. Okay, so these kind of clocks were used in India also. So this is how people measured time, children, during the ancient times, during the past. There was one more thing called as the sundial. Alright, so according to the position of the sun in the sky, people used to measure time. So this is a sundial. Alright, and then now you have modern ways of keeping time. So you make use of watches, you have digital watches also. Digital, you just need to know how to read. You will be able to say the time. Okay, so these are the modern ways of keeping time. You also have these kind of calendars which we use in order to keep time. Now, let's come to one more last point in our lesson: time and history. How is time connected to history? So, see, we have these important things like coins, etc., which we find from underneath the surface of the earth when the people dig, isn't it? Sometimes you will see these kind of statues also. There are many other things that people find from underneath the earth, like this. Can you see? So many ancient objects, like you have statues, you have coins, you have pieces of pots, pans, etc., which people find from under the earth when they are digging up the earth for whatever purpose. All these things, they study, the scientists, they study these things properly to understand about which time they belong to. So history and time has also got a very, very close connection.
So children, now that we have learnt so many interesting things, isn't it, in this particular lesson, let us look at a few more points which are remaining, and those two are also very, very interesting points. So the first thing we will do is, we will look at the section which says use your brain power. So come on, let's try to use our brain power and see about what we are going to look at. So we are going to talk about what? We are going to talk about the newspaper. So what is a newspaper, children? Have you ever read a newspaper? Now you might not have read a newspaper exactly, but you might have seen it, isn't it? In most of our houses, our parents, that is our papa, mummy, sometimes our dada, dadi, nana, nani, they read the newspaper. Okay, it is something which comes into our house every day. Now, what do you get when you read the newspaper, or why do we read the newspaper for? We read the newspaper so that we can get all the daily news. Now children, nowadays we have news coming up on our mobile phones, on TV, on our computers, etc. But once upon a time, if you wanted to get the news, you had to read the newspaper. Okay, but today times are changing. You will see that the newspaper is available even on your phone. So you need not go and pick up a newspaper and bring it home and turn the pages and read it. You can simply switch on your mobile or switch on your computer and read the newspaper. The same paper you can read. Alright, so we are going to talk about the newspaper today in use your brain power part of the lesson. So what are we going to talk about in the newspaper? Let us see. So see, Papa is sitting and reading a newspaper. Let us take a look at the date. Suppose today is the 20th of June. Suppose, okay? So see the date on the calendar. It is 20th of June. So Papa is reading today's newspaper. Okay? Now, suppose we move on and we go to the next day. That is, look at the calendar. The date is 21st of June. So what will happen to the paper which Papa was reading on the 20th of June? That is, Papa was reading a paper today. What will happen to the paper tomorrow? Tomorrow, children, the paper will become an old newspaper. So it doesn't have any value. What do? We just pick up the old newspapers after the month is over and we make a big stack of it and we give it to the raddiwala, isn't it? But sometimes it so happens that you're not able to remember something. You wanted to remember some point and you were looking at reading something, but then you forgot it. So where will you search for it? You will search for it in the old newspapers. So you will get information about the thing which you have forgotten or missed in the old newspaper. That means today's newspaper will tomorrow become an important means of getting to know history. We just saw that for understanding time we have to study history also, and sometimes we get to study history from all these things like statues, coins, pottery, etc. Along with that, we get to understand more about history even from the newspaper. Okay, now we'll come to one more interesting point in your textbook. We will look at the do you know section. So, do you know what are we going to look at? We are going to talk about an hourglass. So, when we did the lesson just now, I told you that an hourglass, a water clock, calendar, all these things are used to measure time. So, let us talk a little bit more about the hour clock, and let us try to understand a little bit more about the history of an hour clock. So, let's see what is an hour clock. See, these are hour clocks. Okay, they have two glass vessels which are connected to each other, and they are fit on a wooden frame. So sometimes you had these simple hour clocks like you can see on the left hand side, and sometimes you had very beautiful and designer hour clocks like you can see on the right hand side. Now children, these hour clocks, they came to be used in the continent of Europe. Okay, so there was this continent Europe where people started making use of the hour clock. Now you can see Europe here in the yellow color there. Can you see a yellow color continent? So that part of the world is Europe. Okay, so people in Europe, they started making use of the hour clock in the 14th century. So now we are in which century? We are in the 21st century. So see, long ago, people in Europe started making use of the hour clock. And children, how does the hour clock work? Let us see. So see, there are two glass vessels like I told you, and they are connected by a wooden frame. Now there is a lot of sand in the upper glass. So there is one glass vessel on top, one glass vessel below. So in the glass vessel on top, there is a lot of sand, and the sand is what kind of sand? It is very fine sand. Why is it so fine? Because there is a hole here which is connecting the two glass vessels together, and the sand has to fall through the hole. So this sand keeps slowly falling from the top vessel to the lower vessel like this. Can you see? And it takes a particular amount of time. So certain hour clocks are for 1 hour, certain are for 20 minutes, certain are for 30 minutes. So it all depends on the amount of sand, on the size of the hole, etc. Okay, but usually it took 1 hour for all the sand to fall from one vessel to the other. And then after 1 hour, what they used to do? The clock used to be turned over. So this is how a period of 1 hour was measured using the hour clock. Okay, but this is a very old method, children. Someone had to be standing there and looking at it properly to see as soon as the sand falls completely, it has to be turned. Okay, so nowadays we make use of these hour clocks only to see them in the museum. So this was the hour clock. Now children, even in our country, India, people used to make use of the hour clock. Alright, so these are the two interesting points that we learned in this lesson. Let us look at all the things that we have learned now. So let us quickly revise what all we learned in this lesson today. So we talked about the clock, and we talked about time, and we saw that our convenience, for the sake of convenience, for the sake of working on a day-to-day time is split up into parts. So sometimes we say right now or just now, sometimes we say in a while or later. Okay, so when we are saying all this, when we are saying right now or just now or in a while or later, what are we doing? We are measuring time in our minds. Unknowingly, we are measuring time in our minds. Now there are other ways also of measuring time. You can make use of instruments also to measure time. For example, see all these instruments. There are some which are new, and there are a few which are old-fashioned also. So you have
the calendar, you have the wristwatch, you have the clocks, you have the watches on the wall, that is the wall clocks, and they are even having a hourglass over here, okay, plus the calendar. So all these things we use in order to understand or learn or to measure time. Now time is also divided in various parts. So it is divided into seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, and decade, century, millennium, etc. So see, 60 seconds make 1 minute, 60 minutes make 1 hour, and then we have 24 hours which together makes a day, and then 7 days make a week, 52 weeks make a year, and so on. Okay, so this is how time is divided into parts for our own convenience. And finally, we saw how all these old and ancient things, that is things like old buildings and things like coins, things like small pieces of art, things like pottery, etc., help us to understand time better. So hope with this beautiful and interesting video you have been able to understand the lesson, understanding time. Now as soon as you finish watching the video, I have got a few small tasks for you. Now, let me explain what those tasks are.
So children, now you have watched the video. So after you watch the video now, you will have to complete a few simple tasks. Now you might have watched the video on your computers or your laptops or your mobile phones. Now after you watch the video, what will you do? You will please go to the description box which is given below the video. So what is the description box? See, the description box looks like this. Alright, and after you go to the description box, you will see that there are a few questions there. Now what are these questions about? These questions are about the lesson that we just learned or the video that you just watched. So what will you do? You will think back properly about the lesson and you will try and answer these questions and note down the answers in your notebook if you want. Okay? After that, we have another task waiting. You will also click on the link which you will find in the description box to fill up the Google form. So now what is the Google form, children? It is nothing but a simple form. There are a few simple questions there about the video which you just saw and also about yourself. So these are the tasks now that you will have to complete after you watch each video. So children, wasn't that a very interesting lesson? I'm sure you learnt a lot of new things in this lesson. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my video so that you will get to see all the videos which I keep posting regularly.